Good morning, students. In the last video, we have learned about the light and the sources of the light and the objects that are luminous and non-luminous. And in this video, we will learn about some transparent, translucent and the opaque object. Yes, these subjects are classified according to their transparency. So, light does not pass through the all object. Depending on the nature of the object, it may pass through completely, partially or not at all. Based on how much light an object allows to pass through it, objects are classified into three categories, that are first, transparent object, second, translucent object, and third, opaque object. So here is the comparison between the transparent, translucent and the opaque object. So first is transparent objects. So first point, object that allow the light to pass through them completely. It means in these objects, in the transparent object, light travel and pass it completely, like the air, like the clear water. Second is translucent. So these allow some light to pass through them and they can reflect some light. Yes, like the colorful paper, like the colorful plastic and rubbed glass and butter paper and the oily paper. And the third is opaque. Opaque are those substances who do not allow light to pass through them, means the substance through which we cannot see anything. The second point is transparent object. We can see clearly through the transparent object, and we cannot see clearly, we can see through the translucent object but not clearly, means some light can pass through it and some can stop. And opaque object, we cannot see anything through them. And the third point is, in the transparent object, they do not absorb, reflect or scatter the light. ट्रांसपेरेंट ऑब्जेक्ट लाइट बिल्कुल भी एब्जॉर्ब नहीं करते, रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं करते, दे स्कैटर द लाइट. ये पूरी लाइट को स्कैटर आगे बढ़ा देते हैं. लाइट के पाथ को आगे फॉरवर्ड मूव कर देना स्कैटर कहलाता है. ना ये एब्जॉर्ब करते हैं और ना ही ये रिफ्लेक्ट करते हैं. जबकि व्हेन द ट्रांसलूसेंट ऑब्जेक्ट दे पार्शली एब्जॉर्ब द लाइट and some light pass through them and some light can reflect through them. And in the opaque object, the complete light can reflect through them and we cannot able to see through them. And the fourth point, you can see the light clearly through the transparent object like the air. And translucent object, you can see only dim light through the translucent object, means things or object are visible but not clearly, only the panther image you can see that. And opaque object, you cannot see the light through the opaque object. And the last point is the example of the transparent: glass window pane, car windscreen and clear water, glass tumbler, spectacle, etc. And the example of the translucent object: frosted glass, cloud, butter paper, oily paper and the muddy water. And the examples of the opaque objects: brick wall, cardboard, book, wooden chair, brick wall and metal sheet, carpet, etc. What exactly are shadow? You know, Shadow can form only and only by the opaque and translucent object. You can't see the shadow of any transparent object. आपको air का shadow नहीं दिखेगा. You can see the shadow of opaque and the translucent object because some light can reflect through them. Yes, the formation of the shadow. What happens when we stand in the front of sun and look below on the ground? We can see a black shadow nearby us. Yes, shadow is always start from the object. It cannot separate from the object. हम अपना shadow हमारे से start होता हुआ देख सकते हैं. And if the sun is front of us, then the shadow is formed in the back side of us. And if the sun is at back in our side, then our shadow will form in the front side. And there is a video, you can clear this confusion and you can clearly understand this topic. So thank you and please enjoy the video.
Introduction. It is recess time at school. You and your friends are out in the lawns. Suddenly a bright light hits you in the eye. You and your friends move to a different location. This time the bright light hits your friend. The bright light seems to be following you. You are confused. You look around. You see Aman standing at a distance with a mirror in his hand. You know that Aman was responsible for this mischief. However, how he managed it, you are not sure. In this lesson, we will discuss light, shadows, and reflection in detail. Objectives. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to define light, define luminous objects, differentiate among transparent, translucent, and opaque objects. Understand the formation of shadow, list the characteristics of shadows, understand the working of a pinhole camera, define reflection of light. It's night and you step inside the house. There is darkness all around. Everything appears black. You can hardly see anything. Your father switches the light on. Now you can see everything clearly. It means light enables viewing. Therefore, light is defined as a form of energy which makes things visible. You are getting late for school. You are not able to find your socks. You search for them in the cupboard. Since the cupboard is dark, you switch the tube lights on. Once you locate the socks, you switch the lights off because there is sufficient daylight. We just talked about two types of light. The light from the tube lights and daylight, which is the light from the sun. While sunlight is natural, light from the tube lights are artificial. Objects which have light of their own are called luminous objects. Thus, in our example, both sun and tube lights are luminous objects. Sun is a natural luminous object and tube lights are artificial, man-made luminous objects. Luminous objects are sources of light. Objects are classified as transparent, translucent, or opaque depending upon their treatment of light. Objects that allow light to pass through them are called transparent objects. Most of the light falling upon a transparent object passes through it to the other side, thereby allowing us to see through them. Glass, clean air, pure water, etc. are examples of transparent objects. Objects that do not allow any light to pass through them are called opaque objects. As a result, we cannot see through them. When light falls on an opaque object, its shadow is formed on the other side of it. Wood, sheets of metal, dark-colored plastics, rocks, etc. are examples of opaque objects. Objects that are partially transparent and partially opaque are called translucent objects. They allow light to pass through them in a scattered or diffused manner. Frosted glass, tracing paper, greased paper, etc. are examples of translucent objects. You and your brother Ashish have just returned from school. Your mother gives both of you lemonade to drink. Your mischievous brother picks the straw out from the glass and tries to look at you through it. After a while, the thin straw bends. Now, when Ashish tries to look at you through it, he is unsuccessful. Does this activity of your brother prove something? Yes, it does. It proves that light travels along a straight line. On a Sunday morning, you are on your way to the market to buy some milk. The sun is shining bright on your face. You see your shadow on the ground behind you. The same day in the evening, you are out in the park playing football. The sun's rays fall on your back. You see your shadow on the ground in front of you. After a while, the sun sets. There are no more shadows. You are confused. You want to understand when shadows are formed. You are also curious to know the direction in which shadows are formed. Shadows are formed when an opaque object is placed across the path of light. Shadows can be seen only on a screen. The ground, walls of a room, building, and other such surfaces act as screens for shadows. Shadows are always formed in the direction opposite to the source of light. In the morning, since you were facing the sun, the shadow was behind you. In the evening, the sun was behind you, causing the shadow to be formed in front of you. When the sun sets, there was no light. Hence, there were no shadows. You just learned some interesting facts about shadows. Let us list the important characteristics of shadows. Shadow is formed when light falls on an opaque object. Shadow is formed in the direction opposite to the source of light. Outline of the shadow matches the outline of the object. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Shadows are dark irrespective of the color of the light or the object. The closer the source of light to an object, the larger the shadow. The farther the source of light from an object, the smaller the shadow.